Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Johnny, and welcome to episode 106 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with Ian Robinson. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Johnny.
So Ian is from Freedom Podcasting, and if you guys have ever heard this intro...
Optimal minimal.
At this altitude, I can run flat out for a half mile before my hands start shaking.
Can I answer your personal question?
Now would seem an appropriate time.
What if I did the opposite? I'm a cybernetic organism.
This is Ian's doing. So how did you come across Tim Ferriss?
Tim Ferriss just came to me because he was looking to make podcasts, and I was working with some of the people that he respected, so we talked to him about it. And it's like with anything, like Tim's show is hugely reliant. Like it's a huge success because it's like him, right? Like I was just able to help him out, so I want to make it clear that like the success of the show is because Tim Ferriss is a crazy, awesome monster,
and he has the best guests. I mean, to be honest, it's if nothing else, he just has access to really good guests.
Yeah,
it's not like personality wise. Some people love him, some people don't like him, but he has the best guests possible, and he asks a lot of questions, so he gets good content, good info.
Yeah, I mean it kind of goes back to the thing, because even back in like a long time ago, the 4-hour work week was all about reaching to the top. It's like lonely at the top that you can actually connect with people at the top easier. So he goes out and seeks guests like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Peter Thiel or something, people that would probably be hard to get in touch with, but to be honest, like it might be easier to get in touch with some people than it would be for other things. So it really goes along with his whole career arc,
Yeah, I absolutely. And the thing is, I'm really happy that he's using his network and his connections to benefit us. Because I listen to his show, and I wouldn't have access to guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, where I would love to pick his brain and find out what makes him tick.
Yeah.
But I think in general, guys like that, they don't want to sit down with, let's say, like a news reporter or a journalist, because it becomes too media-ish. There's always some kind of political reason behind everything.
Yeah.
But with Tim Ferriss, it's he really just wants to find out what makes the guy perform.
Right. Yeah, and he does. It's really interesting because he'll interview people like Glenn Beck or like, the guys who made steroids and ended up in prison and stuff. So he's looking for different things. But I think it's also indicative. Like another thing is like Barack Obama went on Mark Maron's show, right? And so Mark Maron has a podcast that he does out of his garage. He's a comedian in Los Angeles. So he's not like a big, awesome Fox News affiliate, multi-billion-dollar company. It's just a dude in his garage. And that's kind of like the way the world's going, which is really exciting to me.
And it's exciting to me too because it's less bias. I mean, everyone's gonna have their bias. There are gonna be things that I'm more biased against, just because I'm human. Yeah. But I am not sponsored by Fox News. I don't really have any sponsors, so I don't care like what I say. I'm gonna talk about the things I like talking about. I'm gonna have the guests that I like. So if Barack Obama came on my show, and Barack, if you listen to this, you're welcome on my show anytime. I'm gonna ask him the hard questions. I'm gonna ask him the questions that I want to know about, regardless of what the syndicate, or the media cares about.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting. I think it's really exciting too, is for somebody like you, because you're like, if Fox offered you a show, if they were like, we'll give you like $300,000 a year to run our show, all you have to do is come into the office, 5 times a week or something.
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do it,
right? No. Like not even close.
Well, what's funny is if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah.
Right.
I remember asking Anton this. I said, what if, some big New York company offered you, and at the time, to me, like, 300,000 was outrageous. It was such a high salary. I was like, yeah, what if they offered you like $300,000? And he didn't even hesitate. He's like, no way. And then I said, what if they give you $1 million a year? And he's like, no, I'm not going there. Right. And it blew my mind, thinking like, why would you not take that big of a salary? All you have to do is, have a pretty cool job in New York.
Yeah. I mean, but you think about it, what is it really like? At a certain point, the money becomes much less important, and being able to do things like wake up on Koh Lanta and drive a little motorcycle down the beach and listen to like the Arabic prayers as you're driving, and you're sitting in a grass hut, and you just went for a swim to reset from working on your own project that you came up with. Like, so would you trade that to work in an office in San Francisco?
Most people think that you're just like, talking about a scenario,
mythical scenario,
but we are actually sitting in a bamboo hut right now, and we were supposed to do this episode an hour ago. And Ian said to me, he's like, "Hey, let me finish editing this podcast."
Yeah.
And who was that for? Was
that was a Tim Ferriss one.
That was a Tim Ferriss one? Awesome. And he said, let me go swim in the ocean real quick and run on the beach, and then let's do the show for an hour.
I got stung by 2 jellyfish.
Oh, man.
Which is not a big deal. It's little ones,
So, like, tell me about Koh Lanta. What do you like about it?
So Thailand, I think Koh Lanta is like to me it's still Thailand, right? You've been here for so long that Koh Lanta and Thailand are Koh Lanta and Chiang Mai would be like very different. For me, I really like it's cool being by the ocean. I like to surf, so this ocean's really boring. Like when I go down to it and it's quiet, it's very strange because I'm used to oceans that sound like but the food here is phenomenal. The workspace here is really great. We've been able to be more productive here than we have in the last like 3 weeks, right? And it's just, I don't know. I really like Thailand. Since I got here, I've been like, it's really changed the way that I see things because the food's phenomenal, inexpensive massages. We're doing CrossFit every day. We've got a great place to work, and we live on the beach. So I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, it's a pretty good life.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned the thing about the ocean is I grew up in San Francisco where we have big waves, cold water, and pretty okay surfing, I think.
Yeah.
Except it's freezing.
It's scary though.
And it's scary. Yeah. It's pretty high level surfing, I think.
Yeah, and it's
white
sharky, right?
Yeah. So I used to never go in the ocean because I hated that. I was like, water's freezing. I just want to chill. And here the water is warm.
Yeah.
You can just like go for a casual swim.
It feels more like a pool.
Yeah, it really
It's like
does.
a big,
To be honest,
pool.
my only complaint is the water is a bit too warm.
It is.
Where when it's hot outside, I want to go cool off.
Yeah.
And you go in the water, you're like, oh, it's just as warm.
I'm still hot. You need to dive down deep to get to the cold water.
Yeah, so these are the biggest complaints that we have in our life right now. But I mean,
there is the obvious things. Like I always like to preface it, like the water went off, the power goes off. People. We just heard of somebody who got dengue fever, so it's not all rainbows and sunshine. There's like people die on the road here. Thailand's got the second highest mortality rate of road deaths in the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sketchy stuff that happens too.
Yeah, definitely. But it all comes with the kind of the territory, I guess. And one of the downsides of too much freedom is we realize we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And we'll do stuff that we'll never do back home. Like, for example, back home you would never ride a motorcycle or even a scooter without a license, without any training, without a helmet, and without some kind of gear or even like jeans on. Here, everyone's in flip-flops, shorts, sometimes no shirt, no helmet.
Yeah.
And they're driving drunk at night and just going crazy.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's one of those things where here I would take a lot more risk than I would back home. So like back home, if I was going to ride a scooter or a motorcycle, I'd probably have jeans and at least sneakers on.
Yeah.
If not, I would have like a full motorcycle kit. I'll probably have a full face helmet.
Yeah.
And I'll probably, take a motorcycle safety course.
Yeah.
Here, I don't do half of that. But my rules are I try not to drive too crazy. I always wear some kind of helmet. And I don't drive drunk.
Yeah.
And even though like the chances of getting an accident are higher than they would be in the US, the amount of freedom that we get being able to hop on a scooter, drive down to the beach whenever we want, not wear like tons of gear, just leave our cheap, $5 helmet on the bike, nobody steals it.
Yeah.
To me it's worth it.
And I think it's also important to realize like for motorcycle riding here, it's like in the US everybody's like you're looked down upon if your motorcycle's like 500 cc's or below, right? So everybody's riding giant, scary, super dangerous motorcycles. Most people here are riding, like our motorcycles, a 125 or a 150. So they're basically like bicycles with engines on them. So you can get them up to like, I don't know how to say it in miles. You can get them up to like 80 kilometers an hour, which is probably like 50 or 60. But you're never really...
But most of the time you're driving like 40 miles an hour.
So it's kind of this different thing, right?
Yeah.
There's no rules.
Yeah.
Most people don't stop when they hit stop signs, and red lights are only sort of a symptom of slowing down.
Well,
right?
on Koh Lanta, there's only one road.
That's true too, right?
And it just goes up and down the island.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like one side road, and someone's gonna call me on that, but there's basically one road.
Johnny, there's 3 roads.
Yeah,
yeah. And then to get here is awesome too, because we had to drive a motorcycle onto these sketchy like rafts that carry us across the ocean, or the what is it? It's the ocean, right? It's just a little island passageway. So that was really cool. We're gonna have a video out about that. So I'm making
where did you ride from?
Krabi.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Not super far.
But did you rent a bike in Krabi and then drive here? Cool.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
The adventure of it.
Okay.
I just thought it would be cool to island hop with a motorcycle.
So I almost didn't make it here to Koh Lanta because I was in Vietnam last week for Anton's wedding. And on my last day in Saigon, I was staying at a hostel just to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And in front of the hostel, there were all these old Honda Winds, which are like these.
What's a Honda Wind?
It's kind of a cool looking motorbike. I think it's still like 150cc or something. It's not a big scooter. It doesn't look like a scooter. It looks like a badass like Mad Max bike. But it's I think it's 250cc or something.
Uh-huh.
If I was gonna guess, between 150 to 250.
So it looks more like something.
But it looks cool.
It looks cool. Okay.
And what people do is they drive it from Saigon, which is Ho Chi Minh City in the south, all the way up to Hanoi in the north. And they take a week or two to ride it up there. And I was so tempted just to buy one and just like reschedule this trip. Because they're cheap too. You can buy them secondhand. Like everyone had US dollar price tags on their bikes because the Vietnamese dong is something retarded. Like a million dong is like $50 or something. So it would have been, I don't know, 6 million dong. So they just write on there like $250.
1 trillion won.
Yeah. So I was like, I have $250.
Yeah.
How cool would it be to own this motorbike?
You don't even have to really sell it. You could just drive it off a cliff at the end, right?
How cool of a video would that be at the end of it? Just like explode your bike. Say thank you for that. This is the grand finale.
Yeah, just blow it up. Just be like, buy some dynamite.
But the only reason why I didn't is I had my plane tickets booked. I had my apartment booked. I had all these plans, and now that I think about it, I have a bunch of people visiting this week as well, so I probably wouldn't have been a good idea to bail on them. But now I'm thinking like, man, that would have been so fun to do.
But it's so easy to just fly out there, right?
I could do it again.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go through the process of going back to Vietnam again.
Is it a process?
A little bit. I mean, like so it's really easy if you live there.
Uh-huh.
So let's say you want to be a digital nomad and you want to stay there for a year. It's
Yeah.
actually easier staying there for a year than Thailand.
Oh.
But it's a pain in the butt to go there for 2 weeks or a month.
Huh.
So in Thailand, if you want to go for let's say you want to go for less than 30 days, you pretty much just fly to Thailand.
Yeah.
You don't need any kind of paperwork. You don't need anything, ahead of time.
Yeah, I can vouch for that because that's what we did.
Yeah.
Which was a mistake because we wanted to stay longer. But
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just show up and they're like, okay, here's 30 days. They snap your passport. They will even give you a SIM card at the airport,
Oh,
for
cool.
free sometimes. And then you're set. That's it. So in Vietnam, what you have to do is you have to apply with these shady online companies. They're not really shady. They just seem shady.
Just like bad graphic design on the websites?
Yeah, they're
or-
just like these old looking, sites that like they don't reply to email, like nothing. And you
Cool.
pay them $25 or something for them to write you a invitation letter to Vietnam. And then
you give them your credit card number, which is the scary part?
yeah,
or-
you give them your credit card number, your passport number, and what they do is they send you back this PDF that you have to print out that has your name, your social security number, as well as 25 other people's names and social security numbers on this letter of invitation saying, these people are my friend or something. They are invited to come. And it's just,
Do you think that's other people applying for it?
yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's
So-
such a bad idea.
It's such a stupid thing. Yeah, and someone's gonna say right now, they're like, "Oh yeah, you can get a private letter for $75."
Some identity thieves people are like, "Oh my gosh, Johnny, this is a great idea."
Well, I'm not going back to Vietnam before, so go ahead. But I mean, the only good thing is like you have like 25 other people from like probably 10 other countries. Everyone's just a traveler, so no one's really thinking about it. But
Yeah.
it's weird, man. It's just uncomfortable having
Yeah.
that.
Does it have a specific? Like, it seems to me like that'd be something easy to just throw into Photoshop and.
I guess you could, but it's such a communist country that if they caught you, I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
So
right? It's scary.
I want to deal with it. So yeah. So anyways, you show up there, and then you can then you go into this line where you have to turn that paperwork in, and fill out this other form. But what I did was I paid a guy $25 to pretty much do that for me. I mean, I think that day I went wouldn't have mattered anyways because it wasn't a long line. But at least I didn't have to like, try to figure out what they wanted. Yeah. But it was still a pain in the butt to like fill out this form of like who's my guarantor and who I'm staying with, all this stuff. Yeah. And then anyways, then you get into the country and then you have this crazy currency that. The first time I came, I completely got ripped off. I think I paid like $80 to take the cab to my hotel, which this time cost me $5. But it was just because they know that you're not going to be able to calculate the currency. Right. Yeah. The trick is, if anyone wants to go, just cover 4 zeros with your thumb, and then divide that in half, and that's pretty much equivalent to a US dollar. Cool. So once I figured out that trick, and then I also figured out that like 8 out of the 10 taxi companies are scams and not to take those, then you're okay. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I think people that live there in Vietnam, all the nomads, they're kind of like non-empathetic to new travelers. They're kind of like, well, we got ripped off when we came and we made it through it. So this is kind of the rite of passage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think about the getting ripped off thing a lot. Like, because when I went to Bali, I made a mistake of paying somebody like, instead of paying, I don't remember exactly what it was, but say it was like 4,000, and I actually accidentally gave him 40,000 of the thing, and it turned out being like something like, instead of paying like $8, I paid like 15 or something. And you think about like, you get ripped off and you make mistakes, you take bad taxis, you go the wrong direction. In Southeast Asia, generally it costs you like $5 or $6 or something. And you're like, oh man, I got ripped off. Like maybe in bad situations it'll cost you like $100, right? Where you get really scammed. But then you go to the US and you rent a car and they're like, oh, you should probably get the secondary insurance. And it's like, oh, okay. And then you get back and they give you your final bill and it's like, oh, there's an extra $300 on here. What's going on? And they're like, oh, you had the secondary insurance. You're like, I do not want that. Take it off. So what's happening is you just get different levels of scams, right? Yeah. And so, I don't know, that happened to me in Spain. And I mean, I've never been to a country where somebody didn't try to rip me off. So.
Well, the other thing
except
about
for
it
maybe
is,
Australia. Yeah, Australia's super safe.
Then, like, well, you know what? Like, in general, it's weird because, so in Thailand, if you go to Bangkok or Pattaya or Phuket, you probably get ripped off. Yeah. But in Chiang Mai, it's such a safe haven right now.
Actually, you're right. Chiang Mai would be another exception.
Like, people literally will chase you down and give you money if you've overpaid.
Give you like 2 baht, right? So you bought something for 98 baht, and then you gave them 100 and walked off, and they'll chase you down and give you 2 baht, which is the equivalent of like a penny.
Yeah. And I mean, I've done this where I've accidentally, I don't know why, I think I gave someone 1,000 baht by accident.
Rather than 100?
Or, maybe I gave it to them and I forgot to get change. I just like walked out. And they found me 2 blocks away at a convenience store. Oh, wow. And they walked in, like, this is like 10 minutes later. I think they asked around or something. They're like, wow. Like, did you guys see this big Asian guy? And they like walked in. They're like, you forgot your change. And I was like, oh, crap. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
So, I don't know.
Yeah, Chiang Mai is like a really crazy, great example of a really safe, comfortable place to live. I can't wait to get back there, honestly. I was so bummed out when I found out it was birding season. And I only realized it when I landed, too. So I was like...
But it's not one of those nice things where now you get to explore Koh Lanta. Yeah. And maybe you wouldn't have had.
Totally. Yeah.
So right now, if you guys listen to this live, it is birding season, which is March till April 13th or so, where all of Chiang Mai is covered in smoke because the farmers, they burn all the crops for the next year. Yeah. And that in itself is already really bad, but what makes it worse is none of the taxis, so they call them taxi trucks or tuk-tuks, these like little 3-wheeled motorcycle things, none of them have any kind of smog control, so all of their black smoke and exhaust fumes just get trapped under this layer of smoke, so you have like this toxic fumes of the taxi trucks with the smoke. And that's what makes it really bad.
Yeah. I had a sore throat the whole time I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. And different people react to it differently. So, so some people are like, oh, especially smokers, or people that don't care about their health. They're just like, oh, you guys are making such a big deal out of nothing. Who cares? It's only,
really?
It's equivalent to smoking 3 cigarettes. Who cares?
Yeah.
And you know what? They're allowed to do.
First
whatever
off,
they
that's
wanna
some
do.
wacky science.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody starts
It's
telling you
terrible
some
science.
weird stuff like
it
that,
actually really is bad science. And it's all hearsay. It's like they repeated that from somewhere else. Because I guarantee you, they didn't do the study.
yeah,
They read it somewhere and they're just regurgitating it.
Yeah, right.
But common sense tells you this is not good for you. Like you wouldn't want to be trapped in. Like you wouldn't want to sit in a room with no ventilation and have that smoke in there, especially not with the tuk smoke. Yeah. And especially when you have the option of taking a 2-hour flight for like how much did you pay to come down to Krabi?
We took a really long way to get down there, and we took 2 trains and just hung out in Bangkok for 2 days, and it still was like, for both of my wife and I, like, I don't know, maybe $200-$300.
So you did you had a little adventure as you came down.
Yeah.
So
it was really fun.
I flew. I'm flying straight back to Chiang Mai.
From Krabi,
and it's like $50 or something.
Really?
So
it's crazy.
It's cheap.
It's hard to explain too when you think about even like a cheap flight from like Reno to like Las Vegas, where I'm from, to Las Vegas, which is a really, really cheap place to fly to. It's still like a cheap ticket's gonna be like $120, right? Like the cheapest ticket you're gonna find, right? But here you can find some tickets that you can't even believe
like
that they're actually
$25.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna get on a plane for that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yes, and because we have the option of coming to places like Koh Lanta that has this great co-working space.
Yeah,
it has the beach. It has awesome air. To be honest, I haven't really even been like appreciating it.
Yeah, it's quick how
you forget
about these things.
Yeah, but it's like the air is so crisp and so clean.
Yeah,
there's so few cars on this island.
Yeah,
it's just nice.
Yeah, we drove up to Doi Enthanon too, and I bet there's some really cool spots, undiscovered spots in those mountains above Chiang Mai right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the air up there was beautiful, and it's just stunning. It's the highest point in Thailand, so you can see super far. I think that might be a cool spot to check out in the future.
Yeah, so when I get back in a few months, I'm definitely going to make a trip up there.
Yeah.
I like it. So I actually wanted to get back to the actual podcasting. We went on a bit of a tangent.
An hour later, it's like, Thailand's great. Wait, we have a point.
But so what made you start Freedom Podcasting?
Well, I was looking for an internet business, right? Because location independence was really important because my wife's Australian, and after we got married, we realized it would take her 2 years before she could enter the United States. And I had just used up my working holiday visa in Australia, so I had no way of getting into Australia without applying for residency, and then that was a process. I could either do it in the country or out of the country. So essentially, for us to spend time together, we either had to move to Australia for like 2 years while we did the paperwork for America, or we could just kind of start traveling and working. And so we decided to travel and work. So I looked for location-independent ways of making money, and that's really why it started, right? Because I was just trying to find that. So it started off as a service business, like I was freelancing. I freelanced for a few, like Lewis Howe's School of Greatness. He was my first really big client, and so I started working with him. We put together his show. His show ended up doing really well. Did like 100 episodes, and then while I was working with him, he kept introducing me to people, and then so I started building it from a freelance type thing into a service-based business. So I had like processes. I would make processes. I had schedules on how to do things, and then I started hiring people to do the things that I used to do, and then I was able to bring on more clients, and that's pretty much. It's a very organic growth. It started from if an hourly thing, like give me $20 an hour and I'll do this, to okay, now we have a launch process and like ongoing episodes, and now we have the whole team and sales processes and everything. So it's been very fun, very exciting.
I like it. You basically designed your own freedom.
Yeah.
And is that how you came up with the name of Freedom Broadcasting?
Well, I always took the point of it's like for the people who use us, it's freedom for them from doing the podcast production, but it definitely works both ways.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And so I completely forgot this. So you just released an episode where I was your guest on your podcast.
Right.
I completely forgot that we even did that episode.
Yeah.
Because did you not publish it for a long time or something?
Yeah.
Did you get busy?
No, what happened is I published it, and then my podcast is almost a tool for me to train people up on how to make podcasts, right? So, when I got your file, I sent it on to one of the guys who's working with us now. It's like, here, and it was a way to test. I'd pay them to produce my show, but then I get to see what it was like working with them. And that was my way of filtering people. Sometimes I'd send it to people, and I wouldn't hear back from them, and then it'd be like, this is great, because I just saved myself the whole problem of hiring somebody and doing this. So the way that people work at Freedom Podcasting is I just start sending them stuff and be like, and they get paid right away. Nobody works for free. And then they start doing it. And some people just find that it's not right for them. They don't even have to say goodbye, really. They can just stop responding to emails. And same thing with us. Because, like, there's some people who I've worked with, and they just, don't even write well, or, like, they'll have grammar errors in the posts, or they'll, like, misspell something and show art. And then when they show it to me, it's, like, up there, and it's like, okay, this is an easy call for all of us because you're not a really good fit for this.
That's really smart, the way that you do that. And what I really liked is inside your new course where you teach people how to create a podcast editing business.
Yeah.
So the actual course itself, at first I thought it was how to edit your own podcast as a podcast producer. So for someone like me that has a podcast, how to edit my own podcast.
Yeah.
And I think like someone like that can get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But then the more I went through it, I realized, I was like, you know what? This is really designed for someone who wants to create a podcast service.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more in-depth and technical than what I normally do with my own podcast. So I hardly do any editing.
Right.
I used one program and I run a couple filters and then that's it.
So you just do Audacity, filters, and then click
I
them
slap
in,
on the
and
intro,
paste them
slap
into
on the outro. I don't get rid of the ums or the what I don't know what else people say.
And your show notes aren't super in depth.
I don't do crazy show notes. And it makes it really easy, but at the same time, I know that people that have higher end podcasts, especially if they're shorter, or they're more technical, they really do want that polished podcast.
Yeah.
Mine is more Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
Where it's just a conversation.
Right.
But after going through that, I realized it's like one of the examples that you did was you were showing people how to make a podcast, how to record it, how to edit, and instead of just hypothetically doing it, you decided to create your own little mini podcast series called like 3 Favorite Books, where you would call up 6 friends, interview them for 20 minutes each, record it, and then use that as a case study.
Right.
How cool was that?
Yeah, it's on iTunes right now too. Because that's the thing is when people go through the course, like one of the things I was worried about is a lot of people make these courses and almost everybody, it's kind of like the same book model schedule, right? Everybody knows most people buy books and never read them, and most people buy courses and never use them. And so my whole thing was I wanted to make something that people actually were like on iTunes at the end of it. And so it's actually a way that I train people up too. So when people reach out to me and they have no experience and they've never produced a podcast before and they say they want to work with Freedom Podcasting, I'm like, here is a coupon for my course, take it, and then when you're done with that, send me your link on iTunes. And if you do that, you know how to do what we're doing, and I don't have to do a lot of the work that I had to do. So
that's so smart. So if anything, this is a great training course for you.
It's a tool that I use to build a business, and it's also it's a product, so it's for sale on Udemy. Yeah. And how do you say it, by the way? Udemy? Everybody's got it.
Yeah,
I learned about it from a Dutch guy, so he called it Udemy, so I always say that now. But yeah, no, it all works together in this really interesting system.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So if anyone, doesn't have some kind of freedom yet, I guess, doesn't have some kind of online business that's generating income and they want to follow your steps, this is and it sounds interesting, if so basically what it would be is you would get an episode raw file and your job would be to listen to that 1 hour episode, take notes of things that people talk about while listening to it, edit out the ums and other background noise and things like that, and basically clean it up,
right?
And then polish it up, and especially if the podcast is interesting, if you're like, for example, if you're editing Tim Ferriss's podcast, it's cool because you got to listen to the whole unedited podcast first before anyone else gets it,
right?
So that's exciting, and I guess you can always pick and choose your clients, especially if you're doing this for yourself.
I think that there'd be like specific ones too. Like there'd be, so Tim Ferriss I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So this is really interesting. Tim Ferriss is an example of like a mass audience type podcast, right? Mark Maron would be another example of that. Joe Rogan. These are mass audience ones. They get paid from advertising. It's not really, it's going to be a hard road to get there. You're either going to have to be a comedian or have some sort of existing audience that's really large. You don't see a lot of people just jumping up to the top of iTunes right now. But then there's also smaller ways of making, podcasts a worthwhile thing in terms of like business, financial. And so we have like an esthetician client, and she has a podcast, and she only gets like 300 to 600 listens per episode or something like that in that area. And she landed a thing with QVC because she was seen as a authority in her space. So she ended up, because she only produces a podcast, it's really high quality. Each one of her posts is great. She doesn't like writing or making movies or anything. So for her to be able to jump on the phone and talk about the things that she likes, and then Dropbox that file and then have everything listed out and in like a search engine optimized blog post that has multimedia on it, so it looks great for Google. Like all that stuff comes together, and she has a whole business end, and all she has to do is talk on the phone and Dropbox the recordings. So it's like a really good business thing.
That's really smart. I was actually thinking. So my cousin is a real estate agent.
Real estate would be perfect
in Southern California, and I keep telling him, I was like, you should do a podcast.
Yeah.
You could talk about what homes are on the market. You can talk about tips and tricks on listing or buying or selling.
Yeah.
And you would be seen as an authority, and it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's content marketing, right?
Yeah.
And so there's people who realize that that's kind of like the way the future's going, and there's people that don't yet. And it's kind of like those are the separations in the business.
But what's nice is, I mean, so I understand because, sometimes people are, they don't want to be the guy on the mic. They don't want to be the girl on the mic.
Right.
They don't want to be the face of it. Or the
in that case, podcasting is probably not their best.
No, but they would, if they want some kind of location independent job, they can do what you're doing, and you can be on the back end. You could be the one at producing and editing the podcast.
Yeah, I mean anybody who's seeking to be an authority, and especially anybody who has anything for sale online, and they're just having a problem with the top end of their funnel. Like if you already have the sales part at the bottom end of your website worked out, and you're having a hard time producing enough content because you're too busy going to conferences or whatever. I mean, if you have the team that's already built and they already know exactly how to do it, you need no coaching. All you have to do is make recordings, and you love talking, and you're always around interesting people. Podcasting is perfect.
And the other great thing about podcasting is it gives you access to people you normally wouldn't have access to.
Right.
So you can pick their brains, you can get experts, you can have them help you with stuff.
Yeah.
You can ask them questions that you want to know.
Right. You could ask me any question about podcasting right now and I'd answer. And it's really great.
And not pay their $200 an hour fee.
Right.
Whatever it is. So I think it's great. And so if someone wants to check out your course, I'll have a link to it. This is episode 106 of Travel Like a Boss podcast. And I'm going to embed one of your coupons in there if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely do it.
And that way, if you guys are interested in either making your own podcasts or if you want to create a podcast service business, Ian teaches you step by step how to do that. So I completely forgot, but you are the same Ian that was working in Australia making $1,000 a week picking fruit.
Yeah.
In episode 6 of the podcast. Do you remember that?
I was one of the first people on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. How funny is that? This is episode 106.
Oh my word!
And that
really?
was episode 6. So this is 100 episodes later.
Well, on 206, I'll come back. It'll be great.
Yeah. Okay. Then you can tell me what you're doing then. So, do you remember what you were doing back then? Where were you?
I was probably still doing freedom podcasting back then. I was just telling you the story about the fruit picking and everything, because it's I think it was really interesting. It was a cool way because fruit picking in Australia was my way of first traveling, and it was location independent and in this wacky sort of way, and that you go somewhere new and then start from scratch. But it's not I really like the internet business stuff now because I can work on the same thing when I go to a new place. Whereas when I was picking fruit or working on a cattle station or refitting boats in the Great Barrier Reef, each time I got to a new place, I was broke and looking for work, and it's very uncomfortable.
I know exactly what you mean. Actually, so this past weekend, I was guiding as dive master.
I saw that. Yeah, what was it said you were freelancing, right? As a dive master? I was like, oh, Johnny's getting back into the...
And to be honest, I only did that because I wanted to go diving, and I was like, I want to dive a lot. In my mind, I thought I wanted to dive every day while I was down here for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you what?
Down here, you wanted to dive every day?
Yeah, because Koh Lanta has great diving.
Cool.
And I thought, what? Instead of paying 5,000 baht every time I want to go diving,
let
me just try to get a gig as a dive master, just guide people. Not even to make money from it, just to be able to dive for free.
Yeah.
So I emailed a bunch of companies, and one of the shops, they were just like, yeah, come by, we'll try you out. And they said, do you have a CV, a resume? And I was like, no. And they're like, can you work Saturday? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, all right.
You're like, it's not worth my time to go home and make a CV. Those are such a pain.
And then I got a call from them a few hours later saying, hey, actually, can you come in tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I spent like Friday and Saturday diving. And I realized, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
Really?
Because mainly, I don't mind guiding. I actually kind of enjoy it. I almost kind of enjoy the responsibility of taking other people out. I don't even mind cleaning the equipment and just like doing all the kind of grunt work that I haven't done in a long time, because it keeps you humble. Kind of reminds you what it's like being in a service-based business.
And you're part of the team when you go diving, right?
Yeah,
Rather than being like sitting there and watching other people do the gear stuff, you're like doing things. It's more fun that way.
It's
right?
fun.
Yeah.
The only reason why I'm not gonna continue to freelance is because you have to wake up at stupid early hours to go set up the boat. On Friday, I had to get up at 6:30 a.m. to go
not
prepare
even
the
that
boat,
early.
which I don't like doing, because the thing is, I don't sleep late, but it's a big difference between waking up at 7:30 and 6:30 to me. Like 7:30 I'm completely fine with, but 6:30 sucks. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, whatever. I gotta go diving. It'll be fun. And then on Saturday, I had to wake up at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope.
That's when it's still dark out and a bit
it's
cold.
still black out. I'm driving there thinking, I am so glad that this is not my job anymore. Because I did this for years and I didn't mind it that much. And it's not that I liked doing it. I was kind of like, well, it's a great job. This is my chance at living, the life I want, be able to go where I want. And I did exactly what you mentioned. I would go from island to island. So I was in different parts of Thailand. I went to the Caribbeans. I went to Australia. Yeah. And I was like, I went to Borneo. And I worked in most of those places, and I got free accommodation. I got paid enough money where I got to live like a local, kind of just enjoy life for 6 months or a year at a time. Yeah. And that was awesome. And anyone who's in their early 20s and if you want to start exploring the world, absolutely be a dive master. Don't become a dive instructor. It's gonna suck the joy out of it. But a dive master is such a fun job.
I really like I've been thinking. I wrote a big article about my cattle station work too, and that wasn't really a fun job. It was super adventurous. And another thing, like I was working in Australia, so I was making a little bit of money and working out in the outback. It was really cool. And it's even to this day, it's one of my fondest memories, even though at the time, we were waking up at like 4:30 every morning for like months, riding horses, moving cattle, getting filthy, filling up engines, changing oil, doing all sorts of filthy, pouring concrete, doing fencing. But I still loved all that stuff. And even now when I think back on it, it's one of the cooler memories that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you did that while you were you were probably early 20s.
I don't remember. No, early mid 20s probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and like for anyone who's listening to this that is in your 20s and you're not doing crap, you're like sitting around at a cubicle, or your days consist of sitting on the couch watching Netflix or playing video games. Yeah. Go out and freaking do something. Like, trust me, trust us. These experiences are so fun and they're so attainable, and you're probably not going to do these when you're 40. Yeah. But right now, like it's one of those things where I assumed when I was, I hated it when I was 21 or 25 and people were like, when I was your age, blah, blah, blah. Right. But trust me, there's crap that you're not willing to do when you're 35 that you're willing to do when you're 25. Yeah. I'm probably not going to live. I'm definitely not gonna pick fruit now, but
fruit picking's tough.
It would have been a fun job, right out of college, or instead of going to college, I would have loved to to move to Australia and pick fruit and lived with 20 other people. Yeah, it would have that was an adventure. That would have been so cool.
Yeah. I mean, the fruit picking adventure was so great, and I was making pretty good money when I was picking fruit too. I was making $1,000 a week, and then 2 months I was able to save enough money to go to South Africa for 3 months. Yeah, so it's really phenomenal. And the Australian thing is so great because the minimum wage is $17. So you could go there and get a crappy job like I did picking fruit. I could have got a better job. I had a college degree and all this other stuff. But I wanted to I wanted to see what it was like to work in agriculture because I worked growing up. I never worked in agriculture. We never grew food or anything.
One thing I might still do is called wolfing.
Wolfing?
Yeah.
Oh, you should and that's easy too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
done it?
Workers on organic farms. Yeah. Yep. I did a wolfing thing in Australia with these finger lime plants, which are these they're really high-end cocktail fruits that they sell in Europe, and they're only grown in this one little area in Australia. And the guy actually had 15 Arab horses, and he wanted somebody to ride them afterwards. So we would only do 1 or 2 hours worth of mulching and tree pruning, and then I had to spend I would spend like 3 to 4 hours like fixing up tack and riding really fast horses, which is crazy in this
That's
really
fun.
beautiful ranch.
That'd be cool.
So woofing is a great opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, and that's something I would still do because it's not, I'm not doing that for a living. It's just volunteer. But what they do is they put you up for free.
Yeah.
They feed you, and you just volunteer on an organic farm.
Yeah.
Which is something I want to support anyways.
Yeah, and you learn a lot. Learn about a lot about the world, and and then it's low. For you don't want to get a job where they're going to expect you to be there for at least a month, right? Because you don't want to do that. But like woofing's great because you can go there for 3 or 4 days.
Oh yeah,
and
nice.
then split, and especially if you tell them ahead of time, like they'll be stoked on that. They could give you like a hard job too, like dig a ditch, which is, I mean, everybody should still dig ditches like once a year. I think. Maybe that's just my mentality there.
No, I actually agree. I think we should physically challenge ourselves and do something uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I would say once a month.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be digging a ditch. It could be
Yeah.
building something. It could even be just doing a hard workout.
Yeah.
I mean, for everyone listening to this, like, when was the last time you like sprinted to exhaustion? Or like the last time you went for a hike where you felt like you were gonna die afterwards?
Yeah.
These are good things for not only our body but our minds and our souls, I think.
I try to do that stuff like twice a day. Like I'm CrossFitting every day right now, right? We took yesterday off, and then when I'm in Australia, I'm like, I wake up in the morning and surf, and then I'll go for like marathon run type runs, like 10 or 20 Ks. So I think like that intense fitness thing it really keeps me healthy.
I'm willing to bet that 100% of internet trolls do not do any kind of like physical labor or like they've never done CrossFit.
Maybe it's just the one internet troll and he's just like the most efficient dude out there. There's only one guy who's actually doing all this.
I'm like willing to bet. I think what it is like once you've like put your body through like a challenging situation where you're like humbled almost.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, I'm exhausted. Like I thought I can climb, I thought I'd be able to do 15 sprints up this hill, but after 2 I was dead. I think that it almost kind of resets you. We become like a very humble, normal human being again.
Yeah.
Versus having all this rage that, just from sitting on the couch and having just like unused energy.
Uh-huh.
I think that's where a lot of like anger comes from, either with not just with internet trolling and hating, but also with like what do you call it, like when you're driving and you get this road rage.
Yeah, road rage. Yeah.
I think a lot of that comes from just pent up frustration in life and just unused energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really get mad very often. I don't have.
Because you're burning it out all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Like you're doing CrossFit, you're running, you're surfing.
Yeah.
Like you don't have anything like pent up to have to get out there.
Yeah. Like I notice sometimes when people have road rage, especially against me, sometimes I'm like the guy that people get mad at on the road because like I tend to drive slow and not really care about, how fast we're getting places because it's kind of like the way I structure my life, right? Like I'm never really in a rush to get places. If I say I'm going to be somewhere at a specific time, I'm always there early so I don't have to think about it. Mostly I don't have to be anywhere at any time. So on the road, I'm never like that. I think that road rage, I think road rage, like Los Angeles is probably like a hub for road rage. I spent a lot of time there. And, people need to be places in specific times. They like a lot of money depends on it sometimes. And then they depend on that money. So when people are really mad on the road, a lot of times they're not really mad at that. They're more mad at their situation that they're stuck in this place where they have to get to this place. And if they're not there in 3 minutes rather than 5, they're going to be, docked a lot.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's because people, they wait to the last freaking minute.
Yeah.
Whatever I want to go somewhere, especially if I'm in LA, I will leave at least 15 minutes early, if not like an hour
in
early.
LA, I leave like a day early. This place is crazy.
And like what I do is I figure like, hey, if I get there early, I can walk around, I can explore the neighborhood, I can grab a coffee, I can like hang out, I can like chat someone up. Like there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
Like and not stress versus you know what it is? I think a lot of people are afraid of getting places early because then they are alone and they have to face the reality of being by themselves.
Yeah.
Most people are uncomfortable sitting by themselves for any period of time, especially before there was like smartphones where you could just play a game on your phone or go on Facebook.
Yeah.
Most people are so uncomfortable sitting in a restaurant by themselves or getting somewhere by themselves and just waiting around. They don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to know what most people are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
don't
for
really know.
most of my life, I was uncomfortable eating at a restaurant by myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
And I think most people are.
What? How did it manifest? Did you just feel like antsy?
I felt like I didn't belong there. I
Mhm.
felt like people were judging me. I
Yeah.
felt like people would, wonder why I was sitting by myself.
Yeah.
I used to and part of it was also just I had too much time to think.
Yeah.
Where I'd be like looking around, waiting for my food and just think, and I would just be in my own company where I was faced with my reality of what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
Instead of being distracted by TV or music or something else, now, even like when a friend goes to the bathroom, 9 times out of 10, like you'll be on your phone when they come back.
Yeah.
Even though it's only going to take 2 minutes. And you almost feel kind of uncomfortable if you're not on your phone.
Right. Right. And that happens even at like bars or places where the social inclination is to talk to other people too. But I also think that there's this like level of like modern people thinking that the phone is like this bad thing, right? And there was a funny like little internet meme where they took a picture of a subway train recently, and everybody's looking at their phone. They're in New York City, right, in the metro, and everybody's looking at their phone. And then it's like, have things really changed? And then they show another picture, and everybody's looking at the newspapers from like 60 years ago. And so, I don't know. It seems like the modern obsession we have, the idea that the phones are like robbing us of all this time, it doesn't really strike me as something this is something that I think that most people wouldn't think. That question that Peter Thiel asks people who want to work at like Palantir or whatever. I don't think that things have changed as much as we like to think that they've changed. We just have faster ways of talking about it now, so that people feel it more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Because
people always find some kind of distraction, regardless of what it is.
And then those things like timeless, like control of self, like that was what you were talking about. You felt uncomfortable just being by yourself, like Seneca like wrote about that in the which one specifically? Yeah, I mean, I just did that Tim Ferriss one where he put up that episode, and he was talking about most people don't have control over themselves. And so here's somebody who's 2,000 years ago, or Marcus Aurelius was talking about it or something like that. And 2,000 years ago, they were still saying these same things. So to me, it seems like the timelessness is, we have new tools to do the same thing, but we're probably still dealing with the same problems of old.
Ah,
yeah,
that's deep. I like it.
It's just I don't know, man. I love these cell phones, and whenever I hear people talking about how they rob us of these things, I'm like, you can always turn that off.
Well, it's a choice.
You can always put that down.
Well, one thing so on my phone,
yeah,
I have all notifications turned off.
Yeah.
Especially like messengers, like Facebook Messenger, it's off.
Right.
So I only check Facebook when I'm on my computer and I'm able to actually type a long response. Yeah. And that's why usually like if I'm going to reply to you on Facebook, it's not going to be a short, 1 sentence answer. It's going to be like I'm talking to someone,
Right.
like I'm writing a paragraph.
Yeah.
And it's because I do it from my laptop when I'm seated somewhere comfortable and I have my roost, with my laptop stand set up.
That laptop stand. I don't get it, man.
Oh,
I watched you working with that the other day, and I was like, I don't get it. Your elbows are up, and you're like looking like a chicken.
Yeah, but it's so much better. If you look at my neck, it's always faced forward instead of hunching down.
Yeah.
So it's so much better for you. And
cool.
I don't always have the ideal setup where my keyboard is, because sometimes the table is too high. But I'd rather have my arms be a little bit uncomfortable than my neck. Yeah, because it makes a big difference.
Cool. Yeah. I appreciate it. I haven't dove into the stands are right over there at Cohub here in Koh Lanta, and anybody can grab one of that. Maybe I'll have to give it a try.
Yeah, give it a shot.
It's addiction, And I still use the trackpad for everything. A lot of people use the mouses here. I've edited 600 podcasts with the trackpad, and people tell me I'm crazy. I should have a mouse.
It's actually really easy where you can just listen to your body. If you feel like your wrist is getting sore or tired, stop doing it.
Yeah. And I feel like I probably got super strong trackpad wrist. So.
Yeah. But what it is, I mean, even with the mouse, that's how you get carpal tunnel, isn't by being on the computer too much. It's by feeling the pain and then ignoring it and just, doing it anyways. Yeah. And that's why whenever my eyes get tired or my wrist gets tired or something, my body tells me something's wrong, I'll take a break. Yeah. And that's what's nice about being here is you can go walk down to the beach, you go grab a smoothie or something, grab a fruit juice.
We got a massage the other day.
You can go get a massage.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Actually, I need to get more massages. So I think I'm gonna do that a little bit later today.
Yeah. You should come to CrossFit though first.
Okay.
We're going to CrossFit at 6:15, and then maybe we'll get a massage after.
Very nice.
The CrossFit guys here, this crazy Swedish dude. He's awesome. His name's Robert, and he's just like he loves like big, long. They call it chipper CrossFit workouts, where you just have to like. It involves like 60 clean and jerks, 60 burpees, 60 pull-ups, like really, really long, hard ones. So it's great. I mean, I'm already so much fitter than I was from surfing most of the time in Australia. So, sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Nice. I do really like it here. Oh, and that's one of the things I wanted to tell you on this podcast is like when we planned our trip to Thailand, we were pretty much like, we're busy most of the time. So organizing these trips, and we're always doing these trips, is something that is a constant like workflow for us. And it was like it's something we don't really like doing a whole lot. And so your blog was perfect because it was like two things. You're like Koh Lanta and Chiang Mai. And I was reading about them both, and I was like, let's just do this. And we were like, yep. And so organizing our trip to Thailand was super easy because we just listened to what you said. So you saved us a ton of time.
You're welcome, buddy. I think a lot of people have done that. That's why there's so many people in Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
It's because I keep talking about it. I'm like, this is the best place. Just go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even wrote up that mega article called like Johnny's Guide to Chiang Mai.
Yeah. And
pretty much you could just follow that.
Yeah. No, you can. I mean, that's what we did. There's a few little deviations just based on the specific things that we like to do, but that's it. You create a huge framework. Like when we're getting ready to go to, we're gonna go spend some time in Macau, and I got the plan of. I had to do the plan yesterday of looking at everywhere I wanted to go, and looking at spots and researching neighborhoods and stuff. And I was thinking to myself the whole time, like, man, thanks, John, for skipping us on the Chiang Mai and the Koh Lanta on that, because you saved us so much work. Your blog's really.
I have
helpful.
a guide to Macau as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you can check it out.
I should have known about that last night.
Yeah. Well, my site has been down for the last 2 days.
I noticed it was down last night.
It sucks. So net firms is terrible. Don't use them. But hopefully it'll be up by.
Is this security thing becoming more commonplace? Because I've never heard about security issues so often as I have recently, and I thought maybe it was just because we're in a world of more traffic now or something. Or maybe
it's a lot of things, but so. The reason why I recommend SiteGround, and I use it for all my new sites, I'm going to move this one over too, is because SiteGround, they do a couple things, right? So if you have a WordPress-based site, which most people have, one of the easiest ways to get hacked is if you forget to update to the latest WordPress.
Yeah.
You have all these holes that people can kind of come through. And most people they don't update in time, they don't update like the day it comes out. They wait, they put it off.
Yeah.
What SiteGround does is it's a managed WordPress host, so they will update for you automatically. So you don't really have to do it.
I think I'm using their shared one, so I'm not going to get that.
No, even with their cheap plans, you still get that.
Yeah.
They won't update your individual plugins, which would have been nice, but they'll update your actual WordPress itself, which is great. They'll also do like nice backups for your site all the time. So
they'll do automated
backups. And these are things that normally.
I just backed my site up on SiteGround last night, so I guess I'm wasting my time with that too.
Yeah, you don't even have to do it. They'll do it for you, which is awesome. And these are things that normally are only available when you're doing when you have like an expensive host like
shared hosting,
WP Engine or something like that. So I mean, this is why I like them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I like them too right now. And they answer your support tickets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The worst about net firms is, every time I called them to deal with this, I was on hold for 25 minutes on the phone.
Yeah.
And then after 25 minutes, I talked to a guy who can't help me.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, you can email this person."
Yeah.
And it drove me crazy, And that's so, even though I'm an affiliate for SiteGround, if you guys want to sign up for something, I appreciate if you use my link, but. Aside from that, I would still recommend them just because they really are the best.
Right.
Yeah.
And their support technicians all have cool Eastern European names, and you can hear like the Eastern European accent behind the way they talk.
But they're really smart. Cool. They know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, they just solve the problems too, rather than telling you what to do.
Yeah, they're definitely not the friendliest, but they will fix your problem.
Right. It's almost better that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about saying thank you so much, I guess.
Yeah,
though you still should do that.
There'll be they'll never, they won't say thank you, but they'll fix your problem, which is good. But I'd rather have that than have like a trained person that has no actual skill saying, thank you so much for calling blah blah blah.
Right.
Like,
that's so annoying.
I don't care.
Yeah, and then there's when you get off the support call, you have to spend like 6 minutes saying, "Oh, thank you, you were great. No, I don't want to take a survey."
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah.
Igor will just hang up on you. He's like, "Your site is up. Click. Done. Click. Don't call me again." And he'll just hang up on you, which is awesome.
It's like having the Terminator on your support team.
Because you're just like, "Oh, that worked. Cool, thank you." No. Click. No, you'd be like, click. Which I love it. All right, so this episode turned out to be the most random just chat, but
it's largely because we're in person, right?
That's why I like doing it in person. Like the last episode I did with you, it was, because I didn't know you in person.
Yeah.
Like it's good to hear the story. It's more formal.
Well, that was so long ago too. Like in your world, because you weren't even drop shipping. I think when it was the first one,
I might have like just started or something, but I wasn't talking about it much. I wasn't really like, I definitely wasn't experienced.
I think you were exploring because I remember you were.
Maybe I was looking into it.
I think you and Ben Finnegan were working together, and he had been kind of doing stuff with me a little bit. So
yeah, and you know what? Light changes quick.
Huh?
Light changes quick, right?
Yeah. Oh, because at that time you had just started out so much that you didn't even have like an audience and everything. So it's really fun to watch your progression. You know? Because now like a lot of people love the show, and I'm taking some really cool photos. So while we're if you guys go to the John Travels Like a Boss podcast, 106?
Yeah, 106.
Then you can see, I'm going to take some cool photos of
cool.
This
you can see
area
the hut that we're sitting in. Yeah. This is our office today, which is crazy because right behind Amy is this giant 10-foot Buddha.
It's ancient looking too. It's like it would be out of like Angkor Wat or something.
Yeah, like it's this, and it's beautiful. And then there's this little the ocean is probably half a block from us. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of trees. We can't see the ocean itself, but you can feel it.
It's actually nice. Have you ever worked at a place where you can have the ocean right next to you? I guess it's not so bad where the ocean's like a pool here, but in the Dominican Republic, the ocean was big.
Loud.
And it's loud, and you get salt all over your computer, and everything gets sticky. It's like, this is pretty ideal here.
Yeah, this is a sweet setup. Koh Lanta is definitely more expensive than Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
I would say by at least... I would say 30%.
Yeah, at least. I don't find that it's super inexpensive here.
It might even be 50% more, to be honest.
We're spending like there's parts of the U.S. that are about as expensive as here, I think. Like,
yeah. So to kind of give everyone an example, I have like a pretty normal room, nothing fancy, and it's 15,000 baht a month, which is $450.
Yeah.
That in Chiang Mai I can get for maybe a third of that, like probably 6,000 or something.
Yeah.
So probably like less than half. The cheapest Thai meal you can get here is going to be 60 baht, which actually is very cheap.
Yeah.
That's $2. But in Chiang Mai, it's half of that. You can get it for 30 baht.
Well, yeah, because Chiang Mai is just a freakishly inexpensive place. Yeah. It's surprisingly inexpensive all the time. When you look at your credit card statements and you're in Chiang Mai and you bought something expensive and you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was only like $10.
I don't even use a credit card there. Like I go to the ATM, and I'll withdraw $300, and it'll last me the whole month.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing that's great about Thailand is I went to Bangkok and bought camera gear. This lens that I have here, it was like $1,200 in Australia, probably $800, $900 in America. It's $350.
No.
Yeah. Brand new.
I always assumed that most electronics in Thailand are more expensive than the U.S.
I don't get it.
Not Australia, but...
It's Nikon, and they're made in Thailand. So I don't know. Maybe they're just stealing them out the back door of the factory or something. But, I mean, that's a legit brand new lens with autofocus. It's 18 by 140.
So that might be an exception. But in general, buy your electronics in the U.S. It's the cheapest place in the world.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Or Russia when the ruble is bad and Apple hasn't updated their site yet. I heard for like 2 days when the Russian ruble dropped, you can buy... anything from the Apple store for like half price, but then they updated it. You
but then your Apple computer is all Russian, so you're like you've got to spend 5 days figuring it out.
Say da.
Yeah, da.
I like it. All right, so if you guys want to check out Ian's podcast course, go to the show notes 106, and you can either you can go through it if you want to become a podcast editor, if you want to either get a job with a company like Ian's,
right,
or if you want to create your own company, which I think is a great idea, or if you want to learn how to make super polished podcasts like the ones you hear on Tim Ferriss' show, you can also go through it as someone who wants to potentially make a podcast.
Yeah, and it's like a short one. So and you can learn how to make the websites that distribute the podcast, and you learn about RSS technology. And so it's only like 3 hours in actuality.
I actually went through the entire thing yesterday.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on going through the whole thing. I just there's only a couple sections I was interested in.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, like I really want to know the parts about the editing and like the polishing of it.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's things that I could do to improve.
Uh-huh.
I think I ended up watching the whole thing.
Cool.
So
well, I try to make it so like each time I say something, I zoom in the screen on exactly where to click, and I think that dynamic nature of it makes it more entertaining. And then also like I splice in stuff like Jessica Alba dancing and like bears catching fish and these kind of things that break it up and make it so like it gives it that gamified thing. Like you want to keep going because you want to be like, what the heck's he gonna put at the end of it?
Yeah, it was definitely easy to follow. So good, really good course overall. Highly recommended. Yeah. So what's the best way to get in touch with you if someone wants to reach out?
I mean, there's so many. We'll just link it all up, right? Like Love Affair Travel is my podcast, which you're the most recent guest on. Okay. I recently brought it back from the death because the Russian malware system was all over my stuff, and that's probably the best way. Love Affair Travel, and then we'll just have everything on there. I'd like to send you that YouTube video, and we can put it up here of when we're riding our bikes from Krabi to here to Koh Lanta. Okay. So when we're done with that, it'll be like a 10-minute video.
Yeah.
These things take me like 6 hours to edit, but they're like really sharp, really fun to watch.
I like it. Yeah, your videos are very cool, so they're exciting to watch. Ian also made the trailer for the Nomad Summit, which is sick. I'll have a link to that here too. You can basically see from beginning to end people coming in, like all the audience coming in.
Yeah.
Like a clip of all the speakers, as well as a kind of a snap hello from a lot of attendees from like
the Australians and the English don't get that though. You have to say a click, otherwise they don't know.
Oh, they don't know what a snap is?
They call a snap a click.
All right, well, snap on travellikeabosspodcast.com episode 106. Ian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, buddy.
Enjoy the rest of Koh Lanta.
High five.
And I will see all of you next week. Ciao.
See you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.